The day started out like any other summer day. I didn't know it would be one of the craziest days of that entire summer. It was Saturday, my favorite day of the week. And as long as my chores were done, I could stay outside until the streetlights came on. I literally tried to play outside from 10 a.m. until the streetlights came on that night. I didn't need food because 75 cents would buy me some better made potato chips, a Faygo Red Pop, and a honey bun. And after all my pop was drunk up, after I got finished drinking all my pop, I could go and get a drink of water from any water hose on the side of anybody's house. See, back then in the 70s, we could play all over the neighborhood without our parents being too concerned about our whereabouts. All the neighborhood mamas and grandmamas, they had this system of communication and they knew each other. For example, if my grandmama was looking for me, she could call Miss Rita and say, "Rita, can you see Kenny outside playing somewhere?" Then Miss Rita would walk out on her front porch, and if she saw me, she would say, "Kenny, your grandmama said, bring your tail home." Oh yeah, and by the way, I think I need to let you know that my neighborhood was ruled by double jeopardy. If someone else's parents saw me doing something wrong, they had the option to call my mama or my grandmama and send me home or whoop my ass. And then call my mama and my grandmama and send me home so that they could whoop my ass. That's double jeopardy. I'm serious. The east side of Detroit was cool. It was tight. We had our own rules, our own government. We could fight each other all day. But if you were from another street, another neighborhood, you have to fight everybody on my street. I saw mamas, grandmothers, fathers, uncles, entire families going to war with people who came on our street and thought they could pick with one of the kids. So before I get to the craziest, mind-blowing, and tripped-out part of this summer, I want to introduce you to my family. I'm going to start with the oldest, my oldest sister. Her name is Dee Dee. Now, to this day, Dee Dee is the most outgoing, energetic woman you'd ever want to meet. She's hardworking, she's outspoken, she's sensitive, and Dee Dee is nosy. She was a beautiful brown, fast teenager. All the young dudes in the neighborhood were attracted to Dee Dee. At a young age, Dee Dee decided to try, notice I said try, to change her life and become sanctified and holy. I'm talking about no makeup, long dresses, head coverings, speaking in tongues, hallelujah, glory to God, thank you, Jesus, I want my Honda back right now, type of stuff. But you see, before her ghetto conversion, she was not only a fast little girl, Dee Dee was like a thug. You know, today, they would say Dee Dee had hands. She was an enforcer. She always got in trouble at school, and she loved to fight. I think I learned to pray because of Dee Dee. I actually thought my father was going to kill her one day, but that's another story for another time. See, there was a house on our street that was totally off limits for anybody in my family. My brother nor my sisters, none of us were allowed to go to this house or in this house. So in the summertime, this house didn't even have a front door. They took the door off the hinges and left it open because there were so many people coming in and out of this house, you couldn't even tell who actually lived there. So one day, I was walking outside. I saw all these people coming in and out of this house. And lo and behold, when I looked up at the top of the house, in the window in the front, I saw Dee Dee kissing a boy that I think lived there. I almost vomited. And then I started praying like this: God, please, don't let my daddy kill Dee Dee. God, don't let my father kill my sister. Please, God. Well, God answered my prayers, and Dee Dee's still with us right now. But let me get back on track with my story. You see, I literally saw Dee Dee throw a girl in the garbage can at Belle Isle Park in Detroit. I think somebody was messing with my other sister or my brother, and Dee Dee decided she was going to handle it by herself. It was like a mini riot of kids. It was at least 10 kids fighting. Probably 7 of them was them and 3 of them was us. But Dee Dee turned into Miss Seeley. You know, Miss Seeley. All my life, I had to fight. I had to fight my daddy. Had to fight my mama. All my life, I had to fight. She was throwing combinations, left, right, uppercuts. She was pulling hair, flipping kids. And when I saw her put that girl in the garbage, it scared me. It shocked me. it got real for me. I took off running, screaming, Mama, Mama, Didi gonna kill somebody. She gonna kill somebody. That's my sister. To this day, she's still our protector. Whenever we need some kind of help, any kind of help, my sister Didi is the one to call. She'll get on a plane, a train, a boat, an automobile, whatever she needs to do to come save her family. Okay, next let me introduce you to Bernie, my sister Bernie. Bernie was a short caramel-colored girl. Bernie is the brains of the family. She always took life serious. She had good grades, good jobs, even in high school. She was always, as they used to say back in the 70s, she was always sugar sharp. Of course, boys was crazy about Bernie, but she wasn't like Didi. Her boyfriends had to have creases in their blue jeans and starched jeans and shirts, and they had to have some type of vehicle and a job, and you know, they had to have some kind of brain. Not like Didi. Didi, they didn't have to have a brain. If they looked good and they talked good, Didi was okay with them. But this Bernie, she had to have a man with brains. And so I'm just going to say it right now. Y'all already know what I'm trying to say. My sister Bernie was ghetto bougie. That's right, ghetto bougie. Let me tell you what I mean. One day, my mother gave Bernie some money to take me to get some school clothes. I think she only gave about $40 or $50, but in the 70s, that was enough to get the job done. Let me say it like this. It was enough if you went to Kmart or Kresge's or even Montgomery Ward's, but no, Bernie took me to the mall. We went straight to the little designer store, and the pants she got me, I think they were almost $30 or $40 just for the pants. And so we came home. I had 2 items. Bernie was so proud of herself. When she showed my mama, I thought my mama was going to have a heart attack. I don't know. I think my mama might have even cried because she didn't want to kill Bernie. She was so mad. Needless to say, them clothes went back to the store that day. And then off to Kmart, me and my mama went. See, those were the kind of clothes that Bernie bought for herself. I was still wearing jeans and shorts and T-shirts every day. And I think you can remember from Sears, my mama used to get me Garanimals for special occasions. You know, Garanimals is when you got a elephant on the tag for the top, then an elephant on the tag for the pants, then you put them together and you get a deal. I became what I think was Bernie's bodyguard. We grew up very close until she decided to go new age on me. Just kidding. She didn't really go new age. But sort of, yes, she did. Let me tell you what she did. One day I was eating a pork chop, sitting at the table, minding my own business, and Bernie came home with some dot-and-etta shrimp. Anybody from the east side of Detroit, even the west side, everybody know what dot-and-etta shrimp was. That's a shrimp that melt in your mouth. Oh, my God. Them shrimp smell so good. I can smell them right now as I'm talking about them. So, of course, being the bratty little brother that I was, I asked Bernie for 1 shrimp. Bernie, let me have a shrimp. She told me, now listen to what she told me. This is when she went new age on me. She told me to take a bite of my pork chop, to close my eyes, and imagine it was shrimp in my mouth. See what I mean when I said new age? I believe she even gave me a mantra or something like my mantra. She wanted me to say something like, this shrimp is so good, this shrimp is so good. To this day, Bernie is still the smart one. She's still caring. She's still responsible. She's still the responsible. And yep, she's still the bougie one. Okay, so now next let me introduce my big brother Al, or as they used to call him back in the day, Disco Al. He was called Disco Al. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. But before Al changed his career into the king of the dance floor, Al was a ghetto stuntman. Yeah, that's right. He was a ghetto stuntman. It was like every day Al got out of the bed and tried to invent ways to break his bones. He would make up ghetto ramps with bricks and wood, and then jump over things like fences and boxes, you know, and break things like his bones. One time, this is what Al did. This is a true story. Al was putting on a production. He wanted everybody to come and see him jump off of an 8-foot awning that was over a door onto a 50-gallon barrel and balance walk on the barrel. I'm going to say that again because I need to make sure you understand that Al was putting on a production. He wanted everybody to come and see him jump off of an 8-foot awning that hung over a door onto a 50-gallon barrel and balance walk on the barrel. Even as a little kid, I knew that this show wasn't going to end well. Of course, Al ended up in the hospital with a broken arm and a concussion. Thank God that was all that happened to him. Then there was a time when we had a snowstorm in Detroit. All of the metro schools were shut down and closed for that day. My mom, for some reason, had to go out in the storm and get groceries, and she decided to take me along with her. So on the way home, the snow was thick and it started to snow again. My mom could barely see, and all of a sudden, a boy on a dirt bike with a ski attached to the front wheel came right in front of us, and right in front of our car. And my mother screamed and she hit the brakes. And so now the boy on the dirt bike keeps going, and he's sliding and he's swerving and screaming, "Whoopee, yeah, whoopee, yeah!" And so he's having the time of his life. And my mother says out loud while she's sitting there, she says, "What kind of damn parent would allow their child to ride a dirt bike with a ski on the front tire in this type of weather?" My mama was boiling mad. Then the boy on the ghetto ski dirt bike spins a 180-degree turn and turns around and begins to head back towards our car. My mother rolls down her window, prepared to cuss this little Negro out. and he sped up next to the window, and you heard he said to my mom, he said, "Hey, Mom." My mom lost it. I think she was cussing in another language. Needless to say, it didn't turn out to be a good snow day for Al. She was cussing in all kinds of languages. I think he had to stay in the house for the rest of the day. Well, Al gave up his career as a daredevil and a stuntman and became king of the dance floor. One time, Al performed at our middle school a Michael Jackson song at a talent show. And I'm telling y'all, the crowd went crazy. You would have thought that was Michael Jackson himself. And that's all Al needed to change his career. The neighborhood gave him the name Disco Al. I have to admit now, the boy had some moves. Guys would get jealous because their girlfriends wanted to dance with Disco Al. Not only did Al have the moves, he had the look. He wore his hair like Eddie Kendricks. From the Temptations, or y'all remember Eddie Kane Jr. From the Five Heartbeats? That was my brother Al. He wore suits all the time. He had fancy shoes. And I had to admit it now, for his age, he had it going on. I think part of Al's successful career as Disco King was that he found a secret that many young boys his age never discovered. My brother Al discovered he needed a job. My brother had a job. When other boys his age were at the park shooting basketball or on the corners drinking 40 ounces of old English malt liquor and smoking weed, Disco Al was at work at the grocery store. This is how he could afford all these nice things that he had at a young age. I'm serious. Al lived at a young age in a high-rise apartment. He drove a red two-door sports car that I crashed. By the way, I totaled it. That's what little brothers are supposed to do. And while most of the dudes his age was still living at home with their mamas, Al became everything that a big brother should be to me. He always looked out for me. It was as if I was out too late, Al, regardless if he had to get up and go to work the next morning, he would come and get me because he did not want to go to sleep if I wasn't home and I wasn't safe. And my big brother Al never let my pockets stay empty. To this day, I'm so proud of Al, and he'll always be my rock. Next, let me tell you about my little brother Rocky. Rocky is this cool little brother that I never knew I had until later on in my life, which is kind of messed up. But you know how our families are, because I always wanted a little brother, but I had one. I didn't know I had one. When we met, we instantly bonded. I could see how much my father was inside of this boy. It was like we had grew up together. Rocky was a solid kid. You could tell that his mother did a great job with him. He was mannerable and very respectful. So I immediately took Rocky under my wing to mess his life up. So I'm just kidding. I was going to mess the good work up that his mother had started in his life. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm sort of kidding, because I took Rocky with me wherever I went. He loved hanging out with his big brother. Of course, I took him places that I shouldn't, and I allowed him to do things that he wasn't old enough to do. You know, what a brother's supposed to do. What kind of brother would I be if I didn't do those type of things? Well, a brother would I be if I didn't do those type of things? Well, on one of these occasions, me and my brothers of Gamma from high school, we came together to throw a big party. The party was wild. The party was a cabaret. Bring your own booze, BYOB. And so there was a lot of liquor there. There was a lot of women there. The DJ was on fire. The party was crunk. It was amazing. My little brother Rocky was right there in the middle of it with a cheesy grin. I'm telling you, I think he had a grin. You could see all of his teeth the whole night. Even the older women flirted with my little brother because he was a good-looking little dude. You know, it runs in the family. What can I say? Well, later that night, something happened that could have ended me and Rocky's life. We were on I-94. I think we were headed west on the Ford Freeway in my Jeep. And we were about to get on the Lodge Freeway right there in Detroit. The road was wet and slippery. And as we entered the curve, the Jeep began to slide and I lost control. Before I knew it, the Jeep was flipping over. The Jeep flipped over 3 times. I can remember as the Jeep was flipping, Rocky and I grabbed each other. We began to hug each other, you know, as if to say, I got you, bro. I got you, bro. I remember that, just holding on to Rocky. And I remember how hard he was holding on to me. And so I remember when the car finished rolling over, Rocky and I climbed out the windshield. And then I could hear one of my Gamma brothers who was following behind us screaming my name. And I could see him running towards us. I'm sure Big Bubba, that was his name, I'm sure Bubba thought that either Rocky and I were dead or at least critically injured. I looked at Rocky. He barely had a scratch on him. He stared at me. No scratch at all. We hugged again. By this time, my friend Bubba had made it to where we were, and I think he was in shock that we were standing there totally fine. Bubba wrapped his arms around us, and the 3 of us were there hugging another. And then another man jumped out of his car, and he ran towards us, and he was screaming at us, "Are y'all okay? Are y'all okay? Get out of the way! Get out of the way! A car's coming around the corner, around this curve, and it's gonna kill y'all if y'all don't get out of the way." So we moved over to the side. And immediately, just like this man said, out of nowhere, this car came speeding around the curve and ran into my Jeep right where we were standing. I'm telling you, I believe that man was an angel, because by the time that Jeep finished rolling over again, I can't remember seeing that man again. So I believe that God sent us an angel because we were about to get killed. And so several minutes later, the highway patrolmen pulled up and they asked us, was anybody hurt? And we said no. And they told us to get in the back of the car. Now, one of the patrolmen, listen to this. One of the patrolmen says, "I smell some alcohol. Have you been drinking?" And so, of course, I lied to him. You know, I said, my brother, he not old enough to drink. I said, I had a glass or 2 of wine at the party. And then there's a long pause. And then he says my name. He says, "Kenny?" I answer. I say, "Yes, sir." He says, "Do you have a sister named Bernie that lives on Crane Street on the east side of Detroit?" I say, "Yes, sir, I do." He says, "I know your fine little sister." Told you she was fine. Her and my sister Vicky were best friends. He says, "I tell you what, Kenny, for your sister, your fine little sister, I'm not taking you to jail tonight." He warned us about drinking and driving, and then he took us home. You tell me that wasn't God. Rocky and I, when we get together, we talk about this story every time. My brother Rocky is still a solid dude. He has his own kids and grandchildren now, and he has never missed a beat. One of the most responsible brothers you can meet. My little brother is the same sweet and caring dude that he was as a teenager on the east side of Detroit. I couldn't be more proud of him. Okay, now before I go and tell you about this crazy story, this crazy night summer story, it had been a long summer day. So much had happened. The prostitute that lived 2 houses down from us on the corner, above the corner store, she gave me a puppy, and we named the puppy Sly. And you know, Sly after some of y'all don't know, but Sly after Sly and the Family Stone. And so then, even on that day, I can remember the firemen came and they turned the fire hydrant on so that we could have a good old hood water park for one day. And then the neighborhood pimp showed up, Robert Earl. He showed up with his 2 Doberman pinchers. Excuse my language, but one of the Doberman's names and the other Doberman's name was Ho. Only in the hood did you see this kind of stuff. And Robert Earl would put on a show for us. He would say, y'all want and Ho to do some tricks for y'all, pun intended. Y'all want to see him do some tricks? And we say, yeah, Robert Earl, yeah, Robert Earl. So he'd tell them, he would snap his fingers and they would go down. And he would start walking down the street, walking down the street, walking down the street. He would get probably halfway down the middle of the block. He would snap both of his fingers above his shoulders, and them Dobermans would take off running. And boy, we would clap and be, do it again, do it again. We'd be so happy. He had those dogs trained, and that was B&H. That, excuse my language, but that was the kind of entertainment that we had in the hood. So finally, guess what happened? The streetlights came on that day. Sadly, it was time to go in the house. As usual, me, my brother, and my sisters, we would have to take baths, and then we would put on our pajamas, and we would sit on the porch before it was time to go to bed. It was, a ghetto tradition that we would. And my grandmother and my mother would sit on the porch, and they would gossip with Miss Turner next door and holler back and forth with Miss Rita and Miss Petty across the street and just be talking about nothing really, but they would just be laughing and having a good time. And because we couldn't leave the porch, sometimes some of the neighborhood kids would come and they would sit on the front porch with us and talk to us or stand out in front and just have a good time with us. Everything was normal up until this point. There was this 19-year-old thug in our neighborhood named Lowe. Now Lowe was bad as bad could get. He robbed everybody he could. He stole anything that wasn't screwed down. I saw Lowe one day walking down the street with a stop sign up under his arm. We were fortunate on Crane Street to have a corner store on each corner of our street. And so, one of the corner store owners hired Lowe to put the other store out of business. Yep, you heard me. One of the stores at one of the corners hired Lowe to put the other store out of business. And so they told Lowe that they would pay him a certain amount if he would get rid of that store by any means necessary. So Lowe tried to do just that. He blew the door off the store. He blew the door wide open, and then the fire department had to show up, and they arrived in what I call ghetto time. If you know what I'm talking about, ghetto time. It wasn't immediately. It was ghetto time. The fire department showed up and extinguished the fire. But everybody in the neighborhood thought for sure the entire store was destroyed, but it wasn't. Apparently, the owner of the store was prepared with good insurance. Yeah, it was an Arab-owned store, and they had some good insurance. They had a good insurance policy, so the store wasn't destroyed. In just a matter of months, the store was restored and remodeled, and it looked much better now than it did before the fire. Needless to say, when Lowe tried to collect his money from the other corner store, they didn't pay him because obviously the store wasn't destroyed. It was up and running better than even before. Well, of course, this pissed Lowe off, and he wanted his money, and he was going to take revenge. So, since he was a money-hungry ghetto thug, this is what he did. He blew the door off the other store. But now this time, he didn't set it on fire. It's like he knew exactly what was going to happen. The burglar alarm went off. That burglar alarm was loud. You could hear it at the other end of the block. It went on for about 10 minutes and no police. Then it went on for about 20 more minutes. No police. We could see from our porch that people started to go into the store and grab items off the shelves. Remember, there was no such thing as crash and grab in the 70s, but the east side of Detroit was innovative and they was pioneering before their time. I got to see crash and grab many decades ago. And so within minutes, people were running down the street with Pampers and bread and milk and beer and and cigarettes, and we begged our mama and our father, please let us go down to the store and get some chips and let us get some stuff. But my mama said no, and I believe my daddy said hell no. He normally wasn't home, but he was there that night to see this show. And so by this time, people were backing up cars and trucks to the door of the store. And some of them were, listen, you know how ghetto folks can get creative, making assembly lines to load stuff into their cars, into the trucks. And so we were placing orders to our friends as we saw them running past the house. Hey, get us some chips or get us some pop or something. I need a honey bun. Get me a Snickers bar. And so believe it or not, some of our friends were tossing things to us as they ran back past our house. After about an hour and 15, an hour and a half or so, you could see that the crowd began to loosen up and people were gone. And so eventually, of course, the police showed up. But guess what? There were people still downstairs in the store trying to get into the safe and to get into the beer coolers. So just a handful of people, probably out of hundreds of people, went to jail that night. And Lo was nowhere in sight. Until the next day, when I was sitting on the porch, I see this car flying past my house in reverse, doing about 75 miles. I'm telling you, he was flying, going backwards down the street. And then I hear the sirens and that the police are chasing Lo, and he's going backwards down the street. He gets right in front of our house and winks at me and laughs and keeps on going. That was Lo, boy. Can you believe that he had the audacity to wink at me and pretty much wave? This was fun for Lo. This was just another day in the ghetto. Well, our mom and our dad, they have died since then. But before my dad passed, he married an angel named Dot. She's the queen of our big old family that we have now. She brought with her my two brothers that I really look up to, Wallace and Darren, and I really appreciate the love that they give me. We all have our kids and grandkids now. We got a host of nieces and nephews, and we're spread it all around the country, and we do our best to talk weekly and to gather on holidays. And so, you know what? We gather together and we talk about when the streetlights came on. Until next time, God bless you. Thank you for listening to my story. Bye-bye.